Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Welcome to Accelerated Health Radio and TV. I'm your host, Sara Banta. I'm a health coach, a natural supplement expert, and a busy mom of 3 teenagers. I believe that your body does want to and is capable of rebuilding and healing itself regardless of what chronic disease you may have. And I'm here for you to answer your questions and bring you innovative and cutting-edge technology and health solutions to empower you and your ability to reach your optimal state of health. Today, my guest will be talking about how seawater and other waters are imperative for optimal health. I know that you really need that strong physical foundation to work on your mental and spiritual growth now more than ever, whether it's overcoming anxiety and depression, losing weight, or detoxing your body in the proper way, and even increasing your level of frequency in life. You really need that strong physical foundation of health in order to gain the willpower to make the bigger changes in your life. If you're new to following me, I help you get there. And you can find my health articles, my cutting-edge natural supplements, devices, and protocols at acceleratedhealthproducts.com. I dive into an array of health conditions, their causes and symptoms, and how to address them naturally. I have spent thousands of dollars and hours of my time biohacking different supplements, technologies, and diets that don't work so that you don't have to. And if you have any health issues you need help with, you can email me directly through the website. I personally read everyone. Accelerated Health Products is the sponsor of the show, so as you support my website, I'm able to bring you more cutting-edge content and guests to this show. So like I mentioned, today we are going to be diving into the importance of minerals and water and how some small tweaks to your physical health can lead to living in a higher state of vibration or frequency as a result. So first, I wanted to just touch on my monthly free group coaching that comes with the Accelerated Ascent Diet Cleanse. This is my most comprehensive cleanse that I have groups going through, and my goodness, the results are blowing even me away. Fat loss of those stubborn pounds that people can't get off, the increased and sustainable physical and mental energy day one. So you're not going through those detox flu symptoms and feeling bad before feeling good. The feeling of hangry doesn't happen. You are feeling great. We switch you into fat burning within 30 minutes and off you are running. Better bowel movements, decreased appetite, intermittent fasting with ease, clearer skin and whiter eyes, better sleep, of course, less moodiness, which we would all appreciate, and improved cellular permeability, which is something I want to talk about with our guest as well. And that is the ability of nutrients coming into the cells and toxins getting out. If you're taking supplements and they can't get in the cells, it's not doing you any good. Successfully, at the end of this, you are successfully going to be flushing gallstones out of the body safely. And you're going to understand how to heal your body on its own and take control back of your health. Right now, this is a big issue. Everyone's in fear. Everyone doesn't feel in control of their health. And I give you that control. The difference between me and any other group coaching is I provide the most cutting edge frequency enhanced supplements that work synergistically with each other, and your body doesn't experience those flu-like symptoms. You feel great day one. If you're interested, leave a comment below, or you can check it out at the acceleratedhealthproducts.com website. Email me directly through the site. I'm happy to let you know if it is right for you. Now to the good stuff. Robert Slovak is a degreed aeronautical and astronautical engineer, best known for co-founding water factory systems in the early 1970s. He and his brother were among the early developers of reverse osmosis technology. After officially retiring from the U.S. water industry in 1996, he went on to globally share his decades of knowledge and experience. Reverse osmosis is just the small tip of what this man, this brilliant man, has done in his lifetime. I am just blown away. God has given me the introduction to Robert. And Robert, welcome. The first moment I talked to you, I knew it was going to be the first of many, and you are on my right hand as one of the top go-to gurus in health. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Sara.
I'm beyond excited to dive into this huge topic, and we could go on for hours. And so I want to first give the audience, obviously I didn't even give your introduction much there, because I want you to talk through what your history is and what you've uncovered over the last, 25 years since 1996?
So I did and continued after selling my company. My brother and I sold the company. We went on to teach water science and technology worldwide. We covered almost everything from the Middle East to Europe to South America, Asia, etc., etc. And while I was spending time in Brazil, I had an experience and an epiphany which changed my career. I was doing work for the Brazilian government and actually rewriting their standards for their water infrastructure, because, as you know, Brazil is very natural resource rich, but to process and use natural resources and even to sell them, you have to have water technology, because it's kind of the basis of all things. And they didn't have that, and I helped them put that together. But while I was in an unusual research experience out in a remote area, I myself became deathly ill, and I understood what it was, and the conditions were such that was easy to happen. And I had bacterial gastroenteritis and was seeking a helicopter to go to a Rio de Janeiro hospital, which didn't get much of a response. And then someone actually gave me, I guess you can see this, gave me this exact little package. Can you see that, Sara?
Yep, I can.
Okay, so someone handed me this in a remote area, and I'm looking at it, and it's like, it has an extraordinary look to it. What's it doing out here, and why are you suggesting I do something with this? And he said, this young man who was our carpenter said, this is our doctor, and we use it for almost everything. And I'm going, you're serious? And I go, what is it? He said, it's made from the sea, and it's called Quinton. And I said, okay, I know I wasn't going to be getting a helicopter. He said, just take one every hour and just let's see what happens. So what else was I going to do? I would have probably consumed anything. And at the end of that time, to my utter surprise, shock, and awe, I was free of all symptoms. And I said, I actually ran down to, at like almost midnight, to where I knew all the men in this small village would be, and that's called the bar. And I just held this empty package up and said, can you get me more of this tomorrow? And the rest is really the rest of my life till this point. So I became so involved with this science, only to learn that this science, which was a discovery of Rene Quinton in 1897, long predated me. And I was discovering nothing new. And in fact, I was coming from a world that didn't know this health science. And so I stayed in Brazil to learn it for 2 years and became an expert in it, and brought this product in 2004 to America, where it had last been brought to America in 1908 for the children's hospitals of the United States to treat childhood tuberculosis. And I was just even more in awe. And so I learned it, brought it to the United States, and then continued to be involved with it until this day. I have taught ketone worldwide, almost every country. And this small boutique pharmaceutical company which was in Paris for the first 96 years. Now it resides in a very elegant, state-of-the-art facility in Alicante, Spain. I don't know if you've ever been to Alicante, Spain, Sarah, but it's kind of like a Spanish version of Monaco, and very, very sophisticated and very beautiful and on the Mediterranean. So that brings me up to this date, and then I expanded my own involvement in health science. I was primarily a water scientist, turned now a health scientist and water scientist.
Yes, and we're going to get into all the water as well. It's funny because I live in California. I've got the Pacific Ocean. I've swallowed that Pacific Ocean many of times. And when I'm taking the supplement, it's like, oh, this is like what I swallow when I don't mean to swallow. But obviously it tastes a lot better and more pure. And I know there's a big difference between just going out and drinking the ocean water versus, and we'll get into that. But I know you had some slides you wanted to go through and show us.
So I'm just kind of here, kind of a vague description of a topic. We're going to delve into a little bit of evolution because I'd like people to understand why they do what they do, why they take products that they're taking, and a lot of it is just rooted in the evolution of the entire five kingdoms of life, of which humans are just one of the subsets, the animal kingdom. And then now we're all thinking about how to maintain that life now that we understand a little more about it. And beyond that is, how do we extend the normal bounds of lifespan? And that is my newest pursuit. And this information is so foundational. It's really in a separate category. This isn't like taking NAD or AMPK or some kind of exotic systemic enzyme, etc., and they're all good, but this is foundational. There is no more foundational than the elements of the periodic table, and I like to help people understand this from the scientific perspective so they really grasp it. This is something you have to grasp, and it's been sad because perhaps we lack science education, especially in America. And even doctors have, I would say 75% of doctors have no clue of the relationship between the periodic table, minerals and trace elements, and our general health and well-being.
I agree, and I'd love to hear more. It's when you go out into the supplement market in general, and I want you to touch on this. There's so many supplements out there that say there's a combination of minerals and amino acids and electrolytes that the formulator decides to put in, and they're not in that natural balance of what the body really needs, and then the body doesn't know what to do, let alone where is it coming from. So that's why I'm so intrigued by this.
So one of the slides I love showing is my favorite water scientist, a serious brainiac of the world, Martin Chaplin from the UK, who made this statement that water is not a bit player in the theater of life. It's the headline act. And every day we learn more and more that, in fact, it's beyond the headline act. Water has so many dimensions, such ability to remember things, such an ability to provide so many functions in our body. It's really incomprehensible. If you ask me, oh, Robert, how much do we know about water and physiology and biology? I'd say maybe we're breaking the 10% mark, and we have a long way to go now that quantum science is beginning to enter into the equation of how water interacts with our biology. So I'd like to tell your people, and again, I'm this is very straightforward science, and not everybody agrees with straightforward science. There are different religious angles. So, but this is really the most conventional kind of whatever you want to call it, National Geographic level of science. So we think of creation of all matter and energy as somehow beginning about 13.8 billion years ago from nothing, not nothing, but perhaps some consciousness. And that event, which we call the Big Bang, produced mostly hydrogen and helium. And how strange, probably there's just a few people in your audience who even know that the first things that were created were hydrogen and helium. And where do they fit in? Well, they're the first two of the lightest elements, so that kind of makes some sense. And I want to point out on this slide that there's obviously different levels or different types of helium. And then if you look at the third item down on the far right, you see something you may have never seen before that I believe Sara and I are going to take up in a future podcast, and that's called heavy deuterium. So just keep that in the back of your mind. And the end game of this, to this day, 74% of the universe, the mass of the universe, the stuff in the universe, and it's 74% is composed of hydrogen, and 24% is composed of helium. That's the whole universe. That's what it's consisting of. And then there's only 2% left. And those 2% are the other 90 natural elements that we really, we don't have any daily interaction. We don't see hydrogen. There's a little bit in the atmosphere. We don't see hydrogen and helium. We see all the other stuff. We see what the earth is made out of. We see what living matter is made out of, et cetera, et cetera. And the hydrogen and helium, of course, the hydrogen makes up part of water, H2O. So we know it's kind of locked and plays a role there. But it's those other 90 natural elements which, together with hydrogen and helium, comprise what we call the periodic table. So the Earth formed about 5 billion years ago from all the space rock, space junk, not junk, but space rock, space dust, etc. And it formed around the gravitational attraction of the sun. And here we get to what, and I just freely say, this is what God made everything in the universe out of. Just these 92 little tiny things that you can't see with any microscope. And they each have an identity. And if you look on the far upper left, you see hydrogen. And if you look on the far upper right, you see helium. Those two comprise 98% of the entire universe of matter. Now, it doesn't include photons and light and other cosmic energies. That's not here. But this is the real stuff. This is the stuff we feel. Did you ever fully grasp this before, Sara?
Never. I feel like I'm back in high school in chemistry class.
Really? So these things make up everything. There's nothing in your body that is not made of these things. And there's really only about maybe 75 of these things, of the 90, that are used to make up our body. Everybody, every plant, every animal, every bacteria, every fungus. That's it. It's very important. So those elements on this chart, that's what makes up the Earth and the atmosphere. And about 4.5 billion years ago, the Earth, which was pretty free of water, And you needed water. I think we all know that. So water came to the Earth from hundreds of millions of years of bombardment by comets carrying ice to Earth. Okay? I mean, it's incredible. This event is called the Late Heavy Bombardment. And it just bombarded the Earth, the dry, hot, cooling Earth with comets of ice, and that ice just melted and it left the planet covered with water.
Oh.
Like, yikes. So that's
Yeah.
4.2 billion years ago, covered with water. Not a speck of land that even a turtle could float to, even though there was no life on the planet. But what happened? And this is the greatest event perhaps in all of biology, and that is when the periodic table of the elements dissolved in the water that was brought by the comets.
Mm.
And that we call that body of water that was left by that millions of years of that chemical process is called the primordial ocean. The ocean that was about to host the creation of life.
Mm.
Perhaps one of the greatest mysteries there is. And that process was helped by heat and energy and gases, which are part of the periodic table, released from the cooling earth underneath. There was tremendous volcanic upheaval. And so this is really what was about to be the recipe being concocted for life. One, a solution of the periodic table of the elements in water in very specific proportions. Because when you dissolve something in water, its characteristics determine exactly how much can dissolve. And that's all, God arranged all this, okay? All this was figured out in precise detail. So that was one thing. And that's what, when I ask a room full of doctors, what's the ocean? They just, they come up with all kinds of answers, but I would say in 16 years, no one has given me the right answer. And I tell them the right answer, ladies and gentlemen, is that the ocean is the only aqueous solution of the entire periodic table in the known universe. That's it. A very special place. So unique. And it included organic molecules. It included dissolved gases such as hydrogen, methane, and ammonia. And then there were things that aren't on the periodic table: electrical forces, magnetic forces, photonic energies, light, cosmic rays, etc. And the result was the first cellular life agreed to be about 3.8 billion years ago. It's a great number to know, because most people ask, how long has man been on the earth? When did life start? People have long since forgotten this, and if it was ever taught even in school. But pretty much the first cellular life is agreed to have begun 3.8 billion years ago as simple microbial life called prokaryotes. And here's what happened afterwards. We finally show up in a slide. Okay, you can see on the far right there's something that looks like a silhouette of somebody walking, but on the far left hand side is really where Earth began as an assemblage, a gravitational assemblage of space rock and space dust. And as it congealed under gravity, of course, it became hotter and hotter, and it had to get rid of that heat by radiating into space. And then where you see the beginning of that blue rectangle, that's when the Earth was bombarded by the comets carrying ice. And shortly thereafter, you can see the line that says cellular life begins. And so that's what evolution is. Evolution occurred within that blue rectangle. the most important, well, I mean, the main part of evolution until, of course, life is still evolving, but that blue rectangle is important because that blue rectangle says all life evolved in the ocean for that period of time, about 2.5 billion years before it left the ocean. Nothing left the ocean. No plants, no bacteria, no animals, nothing. And finally, when it did leave the ocean, something very critical happened. Life came and went because the ocean, which it became familiar with, was like returning home. The ocean gave it its sustenance, its design, it gave it everything. And so not all life was, it's like maybe having one of your teenagers leave the home and kind of come back after a while, okay? Because it's not doing so well compared to the comforts you provided him. And that's kind of how the ocean is. So when life left the ocean, plant left first about 400 million years ago, and then animal life and microbial life left a little bit later, and that's it. We're at the end. Humans just occupy that little light brown line at the very end of all of this.
Wow. Robert, we're going to take a short commercial break.
Okay.
But I'm just in awe, and it also brings forth, I'm super excited for you to get into our blood plasma matching what's in it.
It's coming.
It's so exciting. So anyways, we're going to take a short commercial break and come right back with Robert Slovak. Welcome back to Accelerated Health Radio and TV. I'm your host, Sara Banta, the owner of Accelerated Health Products. And today we have Robert Slovak talking all things water and getting a history lesson that I don't think anyone thought they were going to get today. It's super exciting. So thanks, Robert. And let's continue and see where this takes us.
Well, before I go, I want to tell you that you have one of the neatest selections of music and songs that I've ever heard on a podcast. So it's like, I'm like a dancing kind of person, even despite my old age. And I just thought, will they see me dancing if I just get up and listen? But it's great. Whoever did it, kudos.
Thank you.
So anyway, this is a big guy who had a lot to do with it, a lot of criticism about Darwin. He missed a lot of things. He got a lot of things right. And he added to the whole equation of us understanding it. But understand there's 5 kingdoms of life that have the bacteria, algae, animals, fungus, plants, all of these kingdoms of life. And there's thousands of species within these kingdoms. All of these evolved in the ocean. It's good to know. Here's the takeaway. I make doctors read this with me in a class. Nothing influenced the origin, design, structure, and function of multicellular life throughout evolution more than the sea. Seawater is the medium and architect of all life on Earth. Bingo. It's some great wisdom of understanding biology, and doctors don't get it. In fact, Rene Canton, we haven't mentioned him yet, but he was a revolutionary biologist, actually a student of Darwin, friends with all the super guys in the late 1800s. You know, he knew Pasteur, he knew Antoine Béchamp, he knew Claude Bernard, and, you know, the whole set of guys knew Rene Canton, but he specialized in the effect of the ocean on biology and life. And he finally made the statement after all the studies he did. This is one of my favorite statements, and you won't understand fully what it means yet, but in the next subsequent slides you will. The only way cellular life could leave the ocean, because it was so attached to it, it was so designed by it, was to take the ocean with it. Wow, what a cool statement. And we're going to find out, what does that mean? Well, 60 to 70% of us, which is the water that makes us up, about 45 liters of stuff that's watery, it's not just pure water, blood plasma, interstitial fluid, lymph fluid, all of it came from the sea. It's so close to the sea composition. It just didn't like kind of get near the sea or kind of look like the sea composition, but you're about to see it's virtually identical. So we're going to kind of skip this one. This just is a doctor slide. It's a little too much for our group right now. This tells you all of the compartments of fluid in the body, and just suffice that there's a bunch of compartments in which fluids have a unique identity. But you can see that two things to understand this, because the average person doesn't know. You've heard of the word extracellular fluid. That's the fluid outside of the cells, that they float in the extracellular fluid. You could consider that the ocean, if you will, of the body, the internal ocean. And then the intracellular fluid, okay? That's inside the cells, and you can see that the extracellular fluid is about 15 liters in a 70 kilogram person, and the intracellular inside the cell is about 25 liters. This was a new discovery for me when I started studying biology and physiology. So here's the guy who really did. He figured things out that were so advanced at the time, and he was one of those gurus, savant, man of all seasons. Not only, you know, science, biology, physiology, clinician, intuitive, but he was also a famous humanitarian. He was an aviator as well. He and his family funded, believe it or not, even though they were French, they funded both the Wright brothers and Santa Dumont. And I think Santa Dumont was doing work in France, and then did it in Brazil. But he was a big guy in aviation, and a French war hero to boot. I'm no match for him. And Rene, you did an incredible job. So there's books written on Rene Canton in multiple languages. It's quite famous. We are publishing one in English, maybe early next year. And so we call this product that he taught the world about, essential marine plasma. And it's something that comes from the world's oceans in a very special way. And Rene Canton, the Laboratoires Canton, there's the Canton Foundation. It's a world foundation that is involved with health research, oceanography, etc. And this is his first product. So his product looked pretty much identical to how it looks today in 1897. I mean, believe it or not, I never realized when that gentleman gave me those 6 ampules of what is called isotonic, that it was available as early as 1897. But what did he do with that? He made plasma de Canton. So what did he do? Well, you know what he did the first thing? Now, this is going to be so shocking to some of you, but in 1904, well, he from 1897 to 1904, he prepared what he was about to demonstrate to the world's elite doctors. And what he did was he first started by administering isotonic seawater. He just diluted it to the same not composition. He diluted it to the same concentration as mammalian blood. And he was able to transfuse the blood plasma of dogs with the seawater. In other words, he would remove their blood plasma and substitute it with seawater.
Wow.
And then he goes, I think I'm onto something. I think my supposition is right, that we did, in fact, take the sea with us as our internal fluid. But then in 1904, before the medical elite in Paris, he did something that truly shocked the world. He didn't transfuse the blood plasma. He transfused, Sara, pay attention.
I
He
am.
transfused, I'm just kind of joking. He transfused the whole blood with seawater. The whole blood. He did it to 6 dogs. It's written up in minute by minute. Whoop, I'm going to go one step further. And here is the treatise that he wrote in 1904, demonstrated before the medical elite of Europe. And that Quinton, plasma de Quinton, was functionally identical. And I really should change this, not only to the blood plasma, it is functionally identical, but it suffices to actually replace the whole blood. And to this day, I cannot give you the details. It is very secret information. But there are, I think you know that there are people, religions around the world that forbid or do not believe in taking the whole blood from someone. Okay? Because they believe the whole blood contains much more information that can disrupt somebody or even harm them. And it's very true that that's possible. So what do those religions of the world use? They use this product, marine plasma. So that instead of getting an IV of whole blood, they get an IV of the same product that we're showing you today. And why does it work? Because these 3 charts show you, they might be a little technical, but they just show you the primary electrolytes in 3 kinds of biological fluids. One is blood plasma, one is extracellular fluid, and one is the original Quinton Isotonic. And you can see that basically they're all the same.
Amazing. And I mean, Robert, this is amazing, but we've got just a few minutes left. So I want to make sure that we go through. So the Quinton Isotonic, and then there's the hypertonic. So
yes, so I'm holding up 3 of each. Is that clearly seen by you?
Yes.
So the 3 in this, what is just the color of the glass, not the color of the fluid, that these 3 clear glass products are the isotonic, which are diluted seawater to match the concentration of your blood plasma. And the other 3 in the amber glass are the pure extracted, or as they say, harvested seawater. And all these products are pharmaceutically produced. They are sterile. They are apyrogenic. They are used in more ways than I'm permitted to tell you on this podcast. And this product has been around now. It's on its 125th year. And for most, this book you see, Le Dispenseur Marine, okay, that book were the core of all the studies, because soon after René Quinton showed what it did and could do with the dogs in 1904, the world's the world was in a multiple pandemic. Europe, Africa, and the Middle East, such as Cairo. You had cholera, tuberculosis, syphilis, gastroenteritis, massive birth defects. Women had 8 to 10 babies before they had a normal one. And this is the product that came to the rescue for the next 50 years.
Amazing. So now you've got someone here sitting in front of you that says, you know, if something's good, more is better. So when you're taking these two supplements, can you go through when you should take each one of them? And you can all find both of these supplements at acceleratedhealthproducts.com. I carry both the hypertonic and the isotonic. And I've been playing around with when to take them. You know, I work out, I use a far infrared sauna. When do you want to use one?
Okay, obviously we have a complex product. And so I'm just going to hold up something that I'm not permitted to show you ever again. This is a guidebook written in 3 languages. The book itself has 3 different copies, 3 languages. It's not permitted to be in the United States. I'm just showing you for informational purposes. This guidebook tells you everything about the application of this product. But we are not permitted to share this with the public in the United States. I think you can figure that one out for yourself, okay? But this does tell you all of the details. In fact, there's 144, I believe, in this book, 144, let's call them pathologies and symptoms in which this is used. So it's very, very a rigorous science. You don't use it casually. But it also cannot harm you either. So here's the general rule. The isotonic, which is in the clear ampules, we tend to call just generally the medicine, okay? Because it's used for when you are not well. And the hypertonic, which is in the amber, is used when you are well and want to maintain it, and also when you're well enough to participate in a highly active life. So if you're about to play tennis, you're about to go on a trip, on a bicycle trip, you're about to go work out in the gym, you almost always take the hypertonic in the amber glass. When something happens, you get the chills, you get a cough, something. And we could go on, and I'm trying to stay away from the obvious right now. You go right to the isotonic. Now, the book you see in the slide here, the Dictionnaire Vidal. Do you see that, Sarah?
I don't see. No, it's not on. There we go.
Okay.
Yep.
So the Dictionnaire Vidal this is a copy from 1975. It was in this book from the 1934 to 1999. The Dictionnaire Vidal is the physician's desk reference. This is what every doctor in the United States uses as his guide for how to fix people. And this is the European one. And this product, which is Canton Marine Plasma, has been in this book for 75 straight years, only to be removed at the wishes of Laboratoires Canton, who makes it, because they did not want to be associated with a pharmaceutical drug any longer. So they are now, they are not considered a pharmaceutical, they are considered a dietary supplement.
Okay, so we only have like 3 minutes left. So I want to make sure. So if you're an active, healthy person, I mean, I consider myself active and healthy. Is there not a time for me to be taking the isotonic? Should I just?
There is a time.
Okay.
And that time is a very specialized application in which you want to relax and shift from sympathetic to parasympathetic. It has a magical ability to shift the body. You may have to take 1 or 2, but it's nearly guaranteed and proven by heart rate variability studies. When you take this typically shocks doctors. You will go within 10 minutes. If you are in a state of fight or flight sympathetic, you will gradually shift into parasympathetic. So some people will take this 30 minutes before they go to bed if they don't easily fall asleep and relax. So that's one example.
And then the hypertonic, you can mix with water. Is that correct? Or
you can mix either one with water. It's kind of a waste to mix the isotonic with water, but you can mix the hypertonic as a way to add minerals and trace elements to the water itself. You're not helping the ketone, but the ketone is helping the water achieve a different capability of, let's just call it structuring for now, which maybe in the future we can talk about that subject.
Awesome. Well, we are definitely coming back and diving more into this, but also into hydrogen water, because we've just scratched the surface of Robert's expertise right now. I hope this is whetting your appetite for future podcasts that we will have. Robert, why don't you tell people where they can find you? And like I mentioned before, you can also find these products at acceleratedhealthproducts.com.
Find me? Well, it's not easy to find me, but I mean, for your group, I'm just going to just wing it and invite people to contact info@waterandwellness.com and to submit a question if you like.
I love it.
Somebody will handle that. I will do my best. I get many requests for that information. But if you just try to identify how you heard me and say, hey, I'm on Sara Banta's Accelerated Health podcast, I will do my best to answer anything. And of course, some of these answers are relatively complex because this product is simply the most foundational nutrient that you can take, bar none, the end of story.
I love it because, as I mentioned in the beginning, everyone goes and they've got their chronic disease and they treat the symptoms. The doctors treat the symptoms. They don't go down to the foundational part of health. And as you mentioned, this is the true foundation. I've got other supplements and things that will help piece things together, but this is truly the foundational supplement because this is you. So thank you, Robert, for joining us today.
Can I say one more thing?
Okay, quickly. Yep.
Okay. For any of you who know someone who's preparing to procreate, have a baby in the middle of pregnancy, breastfeeding, etc., there is nothing I can ever share with you of the significance of this in having disease-free, extraordinary children at every stage of your pregnancy. Thanks.
Wow. I wish I had known that with my 3 kids, but they're catching up now as teenagers. So I'm making sure they're taking it every day. So thank you, Robert. And thanks everybody.
You're welcome, Sara. It was great.
Us. We're going to do it again. And if you have any issues, you can contact me directly through the website, acceleratedhealthproducts.com. You can find this episode and all of my episodes on YouTube, iHeart, and over 100 channels. So just search it. We're there. If you are interested in these supplements or any at acceleratedhealthproducts.com, you can use coupon W4HC20 for 20% off site-wide. Thanks again for joining us and have a great week, everybody.
Thank you.